Before we begin, I would just like to let you know that the proceedings of today will be in English, except for one speech which will be in Arabic. So there is interpretation. Anybody who would like to have a device for interpretation, please raise your hand and my colleagues will get one for you. Okay, good morning. Dr. Ahmed Zaid, Director of the Biblioteca Alexandrina. As always, allow me to begin by welcoming our guests. Your Excellency, Vice Admiral Ahmed Khalid Hassan Said, Governor of Alexandria. Your Excellency, Mr. Nikolas Papagorgiou, Ambassador of Greece in Egypt. Your Eminence, Archimandrite Athanasios, on behalf of the Greek Orthodox Patriarchate of Alexandria and of Africa. Your Excellency, Ambassador Konstantinos Piperingos, Director General of the Greek Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Your Excellency, Professor Abdelaziz Konsoa, President of Alexandria University. Your Excellency, Mr. Oniferos Ikonomidis, Deputy Head of Mission of the Embassy of Cyprus in Egypt. Your Excellency, Ms. Astrid Alexanian, on behalf of the Ambassador of Austria in Egypt. Distinguished consuls in Alexandria, representatives of the Greek and Cypriot communities of Alexandria and Cairo, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Biblioteca Alexandrina and to this special event to inaugurate the opening of the Alexander the Great Back to Egypt exhibition. This exhibition is under the auspices of the Greek Ministries of Foreign Affairs, Defense and Interior, the Greek Embassy in Egypt, the Aristotle University of Thessaloniki, and the Union of Regions of Greece. It is organized by the Biblioteca Alexandrina, the Central Union of Municipalities of Greece, the Greek Embassy in Egypt, and the Hellenic Research Institute of Alexandrian Civilization, headed by Dr. Kalliope Papacosta, and in coordination with and curated by the Experimental Laboratory in Baflós, directed by Mr. Pavlos Trókópoulos, and the Art Museum Waldviertel of Austria. We also extend our sincere appreciation and gratitude to you all and to all the sponsoring and supporting organizations of this event. Orascom, Ora, OSL, Archirodon, Salfo, Egypt Air, ERT, EPT3, TPA, and Radisson Blu. So the Biblioteca Alexandrina, inaugurated in 2002, is the modern revival of its ancient predecessor and continues to build on the visions of the past, better understanding the dynamics of today, to build a vision for a better future. And what a great past to shoulder. Though Alexander the Great was not present during the time when the ancient library was built, it remained true to his vision for the city as a major cultural and intellectual center. Indeed, it was here that Eratosthenes first calculated the circumference of the earth. And it was here that Aristarchus first placed the sun at the center of the universe. And it was here that Euclid of Alexandria wrote his Elements. And it was here that many great men bore the title of heading the greatest world institution of the time. And with that, it is now my honor to invite to the podium the director of the new Library of Alexandria, the Biblioteca Alexandrina, Dr. Ahmed Zaid.
Good afternoon. Your Excellency, Vice Admiral Ahmed Khalid Hassan Said, Governor of Alexandria. Your Excellency, Mr. Nikolas Papagorgiou, Ambassador of Greece in Egypt. Your Excellency, Professor Abdelaziz Konsoa, President of Alexandria Universities. Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is my pleasure to welcome you all as the new Library of Alexandria, the Biblioteca Alexandrina. The city of Alexandria, founded by Alexander the Great in 331 BC, was chosen as a strategic location between the sea and the Lake Marriott, making the city a bridge of communication between East and West and a center of commerce, science, and arts. thus becoming one of the greatest cities of ancient world and a unique civilizational project to achieve the unity of humanity through cultural and knowledge exchange, an idea that lives on to this day. It housed its famous library of hundreds of thousands of manuscripts, attracting scholars and philosophers from all over the world. The new Bibliotheca Alexandrina is a spiritual heir to the ancient library and continues its role as a global center of knowledge and cultural dialogue, just as Alexander the Great wanted his city to be. Indeed, and in true spirit to the Hellenistic culture founded at the time of Alexander, the Bibliotheca Alexandrina hosts a center for Hellenistic studies. This center also offers a degree, a master's degree in Hellenistic studies with cooperation with in cooperation with the University of Alexandria. Of course, Alexander the Great is one of the pivotal figures of human history and one of the greatest leaders to have passed through the ages. He was not just an accomplished military leader, but a visionary with a concept of comprehensive civilization that sought to integrate people under an umbrella of cultural, intellectual exchange. His dual military and intellectual upbringing formed his unique personality, capable of combining dream and will, sword and intellect. As such, the Alexander the Great Back to Egypt exhibition comes to resurrect this historical moment through the works of the late Greek artist Warmelemus. These portraits are not traditional portraits of a young leader, but rather various artistic visions that invite us to discover Alexander as a leader, as a human being, and a dreamer from angles we are not familiar with from traditional historical narratives. The exhibition itself aspires to become a space for dialogue between civilizations and a bridge between Alexander, who once was, Alexandria that still is, and the artist who embodied the dream. Through this exhibition, we will celebrate not only the memory of the great leader, but also the ideas of a city that transcend the time and the space to remain an icon of cultural diversity and a symbol of the unity of humanity in its long journey towards common understanding and peace. I would like to thank you all parties involved in mobilizing, organizing, and creating this exhibition. I welcome you all once again, and I look forward to the proceedings of this day. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ahmed. Indeed, Alexander the Great was the king of Macedonia and an exceptional Greek military commander, renowned for spreading culture and founding many cities bearing his name, the most notable being, of course, Alexandria in Egypt. Through his exceptional concept of universal knowledge, there came the coexistence of two cultures and traditions, Egyptian and Greek, in one, the Hellenistic. The shared history of this city is the best testimony to this creative blending. And beyond the shared heritage and unique history, Egypt and Greece have since maintained extensive close relations throughout the centuries and continue to enjoy strong strategic partnership to this day. It is with great pleasure that I introduce His Excellency Ambassador Nikoulaos Papageorgiou, Ambassador of Greece in Egypt.
Good afternoon to all of you. It is a great pleasure to be amongst you today on this very special occasion. Actually, the reason which has brought us together today is a return. Not any return, but the return of Alexander to the city he himself founded. Through the works of Varlamis, we see a versatile and polymorphic and multifaceted artist, as it was alluded to before by Dr. Zayed as well, who was tremendously inspired through the greatest part of his life and focused on Alexander, presenting a huge variety, a diversity of works, which we had the opportunity to saw today. Actually, works of Varlamis were here before, back in the 90s, in an exhibition in Cairo. But today, it is an exceptional day because he's back to Egypt, he's back to his home place. But I don't need to say much how related this city has been to Greeks, not only of Greece, but around the world. I guess there hasn't been any place on earth more related to us, Greeks. And actually, it's a strong bond which started since time immemorial with interaction between Greeks and Egyptians, and the establishment of Alexandria came to reinforce these bonds which stand up until today. Speaking about the relations between our two countries, I would say that today they're at their best. And a lot of people on both sides take pride of this and have worked diligently to make it happen. And culture is a fundamental element of this relationship, and we do really take pride in this. One exceptional also dimension is that the Greeks and Egyptians, despite their old shared past, did not rely on this solely, but they worked together, as I said before, to work and establish one of the best relations they ever had, and which is a paradigm of interstate relations in the Eastern Mediterranean and beyond. And I'm very proud of this, representing my country. I would like wholeheartedly to thank all those who worked diligently all this preceding period to make this exhibition happen. I can only promise that we continue on this path, working together with our Egyptian friends and working on cultural things, which is, as I said, a privileged domain in our bilateral relations. I'm sure you will enjoy. I very much enjoyed the exhibition myself, and I look forward to visiting it again, and I'm sure you will enjoy that as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Indeed, it's a great honor to host today an artwork that touches the depth of our city's history and spirit, as we announce the opening of the exceptional art exhibition by the late Greek artist and architect Makis Varlamis, entitled Alexander the Great Back to Egypt. The exhibition serves as an artistic and visual testament to the genius of Alexander the Great and the influence of the Hellenistic period. And as we will witness later today, these works deeply reflect the relationship between art, engineering, and history. Allow me to welcome Mr. Pavlos Trókopoulos, Director of Experimental Laboratory of Vergina, Permatiko Egasiri Verginas, who is responsible for bringing this exhibition to us.
Thank you, Kempa. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, first of all, I would like to thank you for honoring us with your presence here at the opening of the exhibition of the late Makis Varlamis on the theme Alexander the Great Back to Iskenderia. I would allow me to thank especially the Greeks who traveled from Greece to be here with us. It's a group about 30 people. You, the Egyptians, and we, the Greeks, we are the hope of the entire world because we are the few people on earth who continue to speak the language of the heart. And this is the hope and the desire of all people. I studied under the artist for more than 35 years. And what I learned above all is that the meaning of life, very simple, is kindness, love, and the service to all people. This work of Varlamis, this great collection on Alexander, is an act of love, an act of service to the humanity. Alexander for Varlamis is not just a physical person, we all know, but it is an idea that represents values, the value of tolerance, respect for different cultures, and of course, faith. In this way, Varlamis reminds us again and brings Alexander to the forefront, to the nowadays. I hope and wish that among the many Alexanders that you will see in the exhibition, you will find your own Alexander. Because this was the purpose that Varlamis made this project. I'm sure that this would also satisfy Varlamis, because it was one of his main goals. I would like to express my gratitude to all people here from the library, because from the director, of course, Mr. Zaid, and all the people who makes us feel that we are like at home, and this helps us a lot. But allowed me to thank our sponsors. Mr. Sawiris, you know him, he's an Egyptian, he's a man who loves Egypt, but also he loves Greece. He has a poor love for arts also. The Archirodon Company, which was one of the first to support our effort and has a close relationship with Egypt. Here is one of the border, Mr. Damianos, he came here. The Salfo Company, which supports all the efforts to present the collection not only in Egypt but to the whole Arab world. And we gave them the title of historical sponsor for that. He's also Kostas Vosnakidis from the company here. The Egypt Air, which takes care of us the transportation. And Thimios Papagiannis Company and Divi Nanopoulou. She is here. She is a genuine Alexander Greek with empathy and kindness. Here, Evie. And finally, the Radisson Blue Park Hotel. There are 3 families, the Verikos families. They are very great people and they support through the times. Finally, I would like to thank 2 ladies. Always, women are the best. Without women, we cannot do anything. Mrs. Milopoulou, she is here. Who first came up with the idea of the exhibition in Alexandria. And of course, you know her all, archaeologist Dr. Kalliopi Papakostas, she is here. Without whom we would not have been able to realize this vision we had. And of course, we gave some presents to the Mr. Governor here, but the main present, it is for now. From the collection you already have seen, also I spoke with our ambassador, Mrs. Varlamis, the widow, and we, the Greek, the Πειραματικό Εργαστήρι, we want to make a donation to Alexandria, so one part of the collection to stay here and to exhibit permanently. We are in your disposal to speak about this. They will help us, a lot of people, Salfo, Archirodon, Mr. Sawiris also, if it is necessary to build something. We know also the place. Mrs. Papacosta, she knows about this. So it is at your disposal, and we will be very happy to discuss with you about this project. In closing, I would like to say 2 words that I'm sure that my teacher Varlamis would also say if he were here with us. Only 2 words. أنا بحب مصر. أنا بحب الإسكندرية. أنا بحب Alexandria. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Tروكوبولوس. So we have spoken somewhat of the glory of ancient Alexandria, which for more than 1,000 years was the largest city in Egypt and its ancient capital. But we must not forget the cosmopolitan city that began to thrive once again in the modern era of memory of Egypt. This wonderful city on the shores of the Mediterranean spoke multiple languages without distinction and tasted the different flavors and colors that painted its landscape. In fact, we still enjoy the wonderful Greek flavors in many places, such as Dilis, Chamos, perhaps before that Trianon, Athenios. Today, Alexandria is home to the Biblioteca Alexandrina and to you, our distinguished guests. It is always with great pleasure that I introduce His Excellency Vice Admiral Ahmed Khalid Hassan Said, Governor of Alexandria.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السيد الأستاذ الدكتور أحمد زايد مدير مكتبة الإسكندرية، السيد السفير نيكولاوس سفير الجمهورية اليونانية بالقاهرة، السيد الأستاذ الدكتور عبد العزيز قنصوة رئيس جامعة الإسكندرية، الصديق العزيز السيد يوليوس قنصل عام اليونان في الإسكندرية، القناصل الممثلين في القاعة، السادة والسيدات الأفاضل أساتذة الجامعات، الحضور الكريم. يسعدني أن أرحب بكم جميعا في الإسكندرية عاصمة الفكر والتنوير في هذا اليوم الذي نلتقي فيه احتفاء بشخصية تاريخية خالدة أثرت في مسار الحضارة الإنسانية، وهي شخصية الإسكندر الأكبر، بمناسبة افتتاح معرض الإسكندر الأكبر العودة إلى مصر. يشرفنا أن نستقبل في هذا اليوم في هذا المكان العريق مجموعة الأعمال الفنية للفنان اليوناني العالمي ماكيس فرالميس، والتي تضم 53 عملا فنيا متنوعا بين اللوحات والمنحوتات والأعمال الخشبية، تحمل رسالة رفيعة عن السلام والتفاهم والتعايش الخلاق بين الشعوب. هذه الرسالة هي امتداد لروح الإسكندرية، المدينة التي تأسست منذ ولادتها على الانفتاح والحوار والفنون. السيدات والسادة، الحضور الكريم، لم يكن اختيار الإسكندر الأكبر لهذه البقعة الفريدة من ساحل البحر المتوسط محض صدفة، لقد انبهر الإسكندر بجمال هذا المكان وعبقرية موقعه الذي يجمع بين البحر والبر، فاختار أن يؤسس هنا مدينة جديدة تحمل اسمه وتكون جسرا بين الشرق والغرب ونافذة لمصر على العالم. ومنذ أن وضع حجر الأساس عام 331 قبل الميلاد، قبل أكثر من 2300 عام، بدأت رحلة مدينة أصبحت واحدة من أعظم مدن التاريخ وعاصمة للمعرفة والفلسفة والفنون. فالإسكندرية لم تكن مجرد مدينة فقط، كانت حلما للإسكندر ومشروعا حضاريا تجاوز حدود زمنه. وبفضل عشقه لمصر وعبقريته في اختيار المكان، تحولت الإسكندرية إلى منارة للتنوير وملتقى للشعوب والثقافات. لقد لمعت في سماء الإسكندرية عبر القرون أسماء علماء وفلاسفة تركوا بصمة لا تمحى في تاريخ الإنسانية. ففي هذه المدينة وضع أقليدس أسس علم الهندسة الذي تدرسه البشرية حتى يومنا هذا. ودرس سيرون السكندري وابنته الفيلسوفة الشهيرة هيباتيا علوم الرياضيات والفلك. وازدهرت العلوم داخل أروقة مكتبة الإسكندرية القديمة. ومن نفس الروح الفكرية التي سكنت هذه المدينة واصل علماء الإسكندرية عبر العصور عطائهم في الطب والفلسفة والآثار والعلوم الإنسانية، مثل مكتشف الدورة الدموية الصغرى ابن النفيس، وصولا إلى شاعر الإسكندرية قسطنطين كفافس وغيرهم، الذين أسهموا في إبراز تراث الإسكندرية العلمي والفلسفي. لقد شكلت الإسكندرية أيضا نموذجا فريدا للتعايش الإنساني، حيث عاشت فيها الجالية اليونانية الكبيرة وأصبحت جزءا أصيلا من النسيج الاجتماعي. تعايش اليونانيين مع أهل الإسكندرية في وئام ومحبة وصداقة، وشاركوا المصريين حياتهم اليومية وخبزهم اليومي. وفي الوقت نفسه حافظوا على لغتهم وثقافتهم وهويتهم اليونانية الأصيلة. وحب السكندريون كل ما هو يوناني، وحب اليونانيين كل ما هو سكندري. وقد أعادت مبادرة عودة الجذور نوستوس هذه المشاعر إلى الواجهة، حيث أتيحت الفرصة للأبناء والأحفاد لاستعادة الذكريات وتجديد الروابط الإنسانية والثقافية. كما شهدت العلاقات المصرية اليونانية خلال السنوات الأخيرة زخما غير مسبوق على المستويين الثنائي والإقليمي، امتدادا لتوجيهات فخامة الرئيس عبد الفتاح السيسي الذي منح هذه العلاقات أولوية خاصة لتعزيز الشراكة والتكامل والاستقرار في شرق المتوسط. كما ينسجم هذا التعاون الثقافي والتاريخي مع رؤية مصر 2030 التي جعلت من الثقافة والمعرفة ركيزة أساسية للتنمية المستدامة، واعتبرت الاستثمار في الإنسان والهوية الوطنية جزءا لا يتجزأ من بناء المستقبل، وأن مصر ستظل دائما مركزا للحوار والتبادل الحضاري على المستوى الإقليمي والدولي. ومكتبة الإسكندرية بما تمثله من رمز عالمي للمعرفة تؤكد اليوم أن الإسكندرية ستظل دائما منارة للتنوير والفن والحوار، كما أراد لها الإسكندر منذ أكثر من 23 قرنا من الزمان. ويسعدنا أن تتضمن فعاليات هذا اليوم أيضا جلسة نقاشية خاصة بعنوان الإسكندر بين الأسطورة والمدينة، حيث يتلاقى فيها الفكر والتاريخ والفن لإعادة قراءة إرث الإسكندر وتأثيره في مدينته الخالدة. ختاما، أتوجه بخالص الشكر والتقدير لجميع القائمين على هذا الحدث الثقافي الراقي، وعلى رأسهم السفارة اليونانية بالقاهرة ومكتبة الإسكندرية والمؤسسة العلمية التي أشرفت على هذا الحدث، وأحييها وأشكرها من الأعماق على اختصاصها في الإسكندرية ومكتبة الإسكندرية بهذا الحدث. وأؤكد أن محافظة الإسكندرية ستظل دوما منفتحة على التعاون وتبادل الخبرات، داعمة لكل ما يعزز الصداقة والشراكة بين مصر واليونان وكل ما يخدم السلام والاستقرار في منطقتنا، مجددا الدعوة للجالية اليونانية الحبيبة للعودة إلى جذورها اسكندرية نوستوس. أرحب بكم جميعا متمنيا لكم زيارة سرية وممتعة، وأن يحمل هذا الحدث رسالة جديدة من الإسكندرية إلى العالم، رسالة محبة وسلام وتعايش بين الشعوب. شكرا لكم جميعا.
Thank you, Your Excellency. The Governor of Alexandria would like to present a gift of recognition to Mr. Pavlos Tروكوبولوس. If you could please come to the stage. Stay one moment. Also, I would like to invite to the stage Professor Abdelaziz Consor, President of Alexandria University, who would also like to recognize Pavlos. So the Hellenistic period prospered and progressed in numerous fields and disciplines, including arts, literature, architecture, religion, mathematics, philosophy, and science. Let us now view a brief film about the glory of the city founded by Alexander the Great.
For more than 2,000 years, Alexandria was not only the capital and the largest city in Egypt, but also the leading cultural center of the ancient world. The world that embraced the ancient library of Alexandria and gathered people of different religions and cultures. Alexandria was once the center of the Hellenistic Empire and the hub of scholarship and commerce in the ancient world. The Hellenistic period covers the time in Mediterranean history between the death of Alexander the Great in 323 BC and the emergence of the Roman Empire, as signified by the Battle of Actium in 31 BC and the Roman annexation of Egypt in 30 BC. That period is characterized by an endless struggle between the Hellenistic kingdoms, which formed Alexander the Great's former empire. It is also significant for its great cultural, architectural, and scientific advancements and innovations, including the creation and development of libraries, the most famous being in Alexandria. Some of the ancient world's great minds who lived and worked during the Hellenistic period are Aristotle, Menander, Epicure, Eratosthenes, Euclid, Archimedes, Polybius, and others.
So, Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, the time has come to avail this opportunity to ask the experts to delve a little further into Alexander the Great, between the legend and the city. The speakers in this panel are Dr. Calliope Papacosta, Director of the Hellenic Center for Alexandrian Civilization Studies, Professor Sofia Avgerino Colonia, Emeritus Professor from the Department of Urban and Regional Planning, School of Architecture at the National Technical University of Athens, and Professor Mohammed Abdel Ghani, Professor of Greek and Roman History and Civilization at the Faculty of Arts, the University of Alexandria. And the session, of course, will be moderated by Professor Mona Haggag, President of the Alexandria Society of Antiquities. Please, panelists, the stage is yours.
Good afternoon, everybody. Let me first extend my thanks to the organizers of this event, a very important one, and for choosing me to be with you in this particular panel discussion, in which I am very enthusiastic about. Let me first express my admiration to the topic that has been selected for this panel, Alexander the Great, between legend and the city. Because simply Alexander was an example, or the example, of how sources merged history together with mythology. Alexander the Great's documented extraordinary achievements actually were astonishing people and blurred the creation of some kind of supernatural actions in the world. And this actually, because of what he has been made, was unprecedented. It was the first time in history that a man or a ruler managed to forge such a vast empire that encompassed the entire civilized world then. From Greece to Egypt, the entire Persian Empire, and reaching to the Indus Valley, which is present-day Pakistan. His military tactics were revolutionary. His political strategies were, of course, that he wants Sinoicism, which is the fusion between the West and the East. Soon after his death, the myth began to grow, transforming Alexander the Great from a historical figure, unprecedented, of course, historical figure, into a supernatural, semi-divine, or hero. And the question now is how to draw a firm and reasonably firm line between the two, between fact and fiction, which is not an easy task. Second, for the choice of this topic is the city. And of course we mean by the city the most famous one among the 20 founded cities that Alexander has founded, the Alexandria of Egypt. The story of Alexander and his legendary city is one that never ceases to reveal new layers of knowledge. Yet, the city of Alexandria itself embodies fact and fiction together. As a practical leader, Alexander the Great has chosen Rakotis as a very natural, safe harbor on the Mediterranean and protected by the island of Pharos, and at the same time linked to the Nile and Egypt's wealth. This very clever choice advantageous place betrays the vision of Alexander towards naval control and trade and commerce, of course. These are realities, these are history. But, and again, practically, he entrusted the planning of his new city to Dinokratis, the architect Dinokratis, a very famous architect at the time. And our reliable sources speak of Alexander the Great attending the lining up of the outlines of the city himself. According to the Greek model and Greek norms of a really and truly civilized city. At the same time, Alexander ordered a temple of Isis to be built and other temples for Greek deities to be built in the city, which reflects the vision of a Greco-Egyptian religious center on the shores of Egypt. Then, in the factual and historical events, usually myth emerges and interferes. It interfered in the story of the lining up of the walls in the streets. When they got ran off chalk and lime, they used barley meal. And this barley meal was soon eaten by birds. And this was interpreted as an omen that the new city is going to feed the world. It will be feeding the world. So the myth again interferes and is interwoven with a historical, practical event. Alexandria, having been the eternal place, resting place of the mummified body of Alexander, turned into a pilgrimage attraction for the deified Alexander. The Pharos lighthouse of Alexandria, which was in itself an unprecedented engineering structure to function for the safety of the mariners, it turned into a beacon of Hellenistic civilization on the shores of Egypt. The Museum and its great library surpassed their role as scholarly institutions into a place where the universal knowledge is dominated exactly as Alexander the Great dominated the lands. So, choosing Alexandria and focusing on Alexandria gives us the key investigation point to draw such a line between Alexander's fact and fiction. Now, these are the preliminary ideas about the very huge matter of our panel today, and we are really very happy that we have three very honorable speakers and scholars. We have a professor, a historian, an eminent historian, an expert one, Professor Mohammed Abdelghani, Professor of Greek and Roman History and Civilization at Alexandria University. We have an eminent archaeologist, Mrs. Calliope Limnaeus Papacosta, who is director of the Hellenic Research Center for Alexandrian Civilization and also the director of a very comprehensive excavation site at Shalalat in Alexandria. And we have an honorable professor, Mrs. Sofia Avgerino Colonia, professor and former director of the Department of Urban and Regional Planning and the Laboratory for Spatial Planning and Urban Development at the School of Architecture at the Natural Technical University of Athens. We welcome you. It's the first time for us to have her with us, so this is an honor. And if we want the history first, then we go to Professor Mohammed Abdelghani. Please, Professor.
Thanks very much indeed, my esteemed colleague and Professor Mona Haggag, for this very interesting introduction to the topic. And let me welcome all the honorable audience in this hall. I'll begin with a historical background, and I'll go beyond, the city of Alexandria, to speak about, the administration of Egypt as a whole, according to the instructions of Alexander the Great and his political program at that time. And my paper is going to raise a question. Its title is Alexander the Great in Egypt, a benevolent savior or a shrewd politician. This is, about the character of Alexander the Great. So, there had been a deep-rooted animosity and hatred between the Greeks and the Persians for more than 180 years, from 510 to 330 BC. It began with the expansion of the first Persian empire, the Achaemenid Empire, westward across Asia Minor and sweeping the Greek colonies and city-states on the western coast of Asia Minor by the end of the 6th century BC. Then the subsequent battles and peace treaties between the two antagonists, the Persians and the Greeks, in mainland Greece and other nearby regions from the start of the 5th century to the middle of the 4th century BC. During that long span of time, many military engagements took place intermittently between the two sides, with changing fortunes alternately as winner or loser. In between such bloody confrontations, some peace treaties, truces, and pacts were concluded between the two parties. Such conventions and temporary political solutions, however, did not last or withstand for long times, and warfare and hostility was almost resumed, and the Persians kept on interfering in the internal affairs of the Greeks. This state of affairs continued till the reign of King Philip II of Macedonia and his son and heir, Alexander III the Great. Such Persian encroachments from the Persian side, with its long history as mentioned above, was one of the strong motives behind Alexander's huge and immense campaigns against the Achaemenid Persian Empire, and engaged in a series of decisive battles against their last king, Darius III. Alexander alluded to this incident in his manifesto to Darius after the second humiliating defeat of the latter and his troops at the Battle of Issus in 333 BC in southern Asia Minor. To the outrageous Persian conspiracies against the Greeks, as well as their indirect involvement in the murder of his father, Philip II. Before Alexander's enormous campaigns against the Persians in 334 BC, the Persian Empire expanded to vast tracts of land. Egypt was one of the Persian provinces, or satrapies, according to the Persian term, from 525 BC to 332 BC, interrupted with a period of temporary independence from 404 to 343 BC after the Third Egyptian Revolt, with Greek reinforcements against the Persian rule. After the second significant victory of Alexander over Darius III at Issus, 333 BC, the Persian king had fled back to his homeland in Persia, leaving his mother, wife, and daughters captives in Alexander's hands. He offered a deal to Alexander in accordance with which he would give back to Darius the royal ladies and, in turn, a joint rule of the Persian Empire would be established between the two men. Alexander declined the offer of the joint rule, although he spared the women of the royal family from captivity willingly. After Asos, Alexander preferred not to pursue the defeated Persian king into his homeland. Instead, he penetrated and subdued the Persian satrapies of Phoenicia and Palestine, although with harsh times and tough resistance in Tyre and Gaza. These incidents took place during the years 333 and 332 BC. Still surprisingly enough, Alexander did not chase Darius to Persia. Instead, he turned westward from Gaza to Egypt, across the north coast of Sinai Peninsula. This could be interpreted on Alexander's side as to secure his back and his troops against the Persian fleet, which must have possessed a naval base in Egypt, and against the remnants of the Persian troops in Egypt before heading eastward to Persia for the final and decisive battle to subjugate the Persian Empire. Alexander entered Egypt peacefully. Alexander in Egypt, and now we are going to speak about Alexander being here in Egypt. Alexander in Egypt, 332 to 331, just 1.5 years, something like that. Alexander entered Egypt peacefully without any resistance. Par Elthon, eis Aigopton, kai par Elabe, passas tas in auti puleis, choris kindonon. From Pelusium in the northeastern point of the Nile Delta. There, the acting Persian satrap at the time, called Mazakes, received and welcomed Alexander to the cities and countryside of Egypt. In this same paragraph of the historian Arrian, which recounts that event, he gives grounds for the act of surrender and friendly reception of Alexander by the Persian satrap or ruler, acting satrap. He points that Mazakes was well aware of the grave defeat incurred to his master, King Darius III, and his troops at Asos, and the disgraceful flight of the king to Persia. Added to these reasonable grounds, there were other plausible reasons, such as the capture of Phoenicia, Syria, and part of Arabia by Alexander, and the lack of sufficient Persian troops under Mazakes' control, as the majority of these troops must have joined Darius' forces at Asos. More important, however, this is a focal point, more important, however, of the supposed considerations of Mazakes' surrender to Alexander must have been the Egyptians' hatred of the Persians as a result of the latter's oppression and atrocities against the Egyptian religion, temples, and priests, according to the Greek and Latin sources. This is well emphasized in the accounts of Diodorus of Sicily and Quintus Curtius, who focused on perpetrated sinful actions on the part of the Persians against the Egyptian temples, as well as their oppressive, haughty, and greedy rule, and the Egyptian reaction of hatred and detestation against the Persians and their eagerness to get rid of their rule. This monotonous depiction of the cruelty and oppression of the Persians against the Egyptian religion and its components dates back in Greek literature to the 5th century BC, as clearly represented in Herodotus. A negative attitude which seems to have been bequeathed to later historians like Diodorus, Strabo, Quintus Curtius, and Plutarch. Herodotus points out to the ridicule and mockery of Cambyses, the first conqueror of Egypt in 525 BC, against the Apis bull, and how he stabbed the bull fatally in his thigh with his dagger and ridiculed the Egyptians for their worship of animal goods with flesh and blood and could be hurt with iron weapons. He pointed out a sarcastic note that such goods are worthy of the Egyptians. He, moreover, punished the priests who mocked him with severe flogging and abolished the religious festival. Later, the Greek historians in the first century BC followed the path of Herodotus in this regard and slandered Cambyses and shed an intensive light on his claimed atrocities and plunder against the great temples of Egypt in Thebes and Heliopolis. In their pursuit to confirm that such notorious behavior was not an individual or irregular one on the part of Cambyses, but rather a characteristic and constant attitude against the Egyptian religion among the Persian kings from the start to the end, the later Greek historians portrayed the late Achaemenid Persian king Okhus, or his official name Artaxerxes III, from 359 to 338 BC, in an image no less brutal and savage than Cambyses, if not more. They depicted him as surpassing his earlier ancestor Cambyses in cruelty and pillaging the treasures of Egypt, especially those of the temples. This very wicked and evil image of that later Persian king who recaptivated Egypt in 343 BC after about 60 years of temporary independence seems to have been inculcated in the minds of the contemporary and later Greek historians, and reflecting that old image of Persian sacrilegious attitude as displayed in Herodotus. This overall negative concept of the Persian rule of Egypt, which was most probably implanted and intentionally enlarged by the Greek sources, must have widened the already existing gap of hostility between the native Egyptians and their Persian colonizers. Now, to be rather objective about this issue, I'm going to summarize a little bit. To be rather objective about this issue, one would expect that even if we theoretically suppose and believe that Persians adapted themselves to the Egyptian religion and were somewhat tolerant with the Egyptian cults, there must have been some excesses and misdeeds in the part of the Persian ruling administration, and the king in particular, owing to the divergence in religion and conceptions between the Persians and the Egyptians, according to Herodotus. The outcome of this analysis, if I'm not mistaken, would be an atmosphere imbued with antipathy and aversion on both sides, particularly on the part of the Egyptians against the Persians, who did not manifest due respect and veneration which their religion deserves. Alexander, who was by nature a lover of knowledge and reading, according to Plutarch, must have read Herodotus and his exaggerations on the Persians' pejorative and disdainful attitude towards the Egyptian religion. Thus, he must have exploited that too darkened image of the Persians in the eyes of the Egyptians and skillfully played on their sensitive religious strength to gain their intimacy and support to his side. Consequently, when Alexander entered Egypt peacefully and without resistance, as displayed above, one of his objectives of primary importance was to appear in an image totally different and distinctive from that of the Persian kings in this respect, especially that the Egyptians welcomed his advent as a friend and a liberator of the Persian despotism and oppression. After Alexander had been received and welcomed by the acting Persian satrap Mazakis at Pelusium, he left a Macedonian garrison there and marched with his infantry and naval troops along and in the Pelusiac branch of the Nile, heading to Heliopolis and Memphis, the traditional capital of ancient Egypt. According to Arrian, when he reached Memphis, he offered sacrifices to the Egyptian gods and Apis in particular, and arranged a gymnastic and musical contest. There participated in the most notable artificers from Greece. These same athletic and musical contests were celebrated once again after Alexander's return from his extraordinary journey to the Oracle of Ammon at the oasis of Siwa. This spectacular festivity also took place at Memphis, and the celebration included this time a parade of his troops under arms. This veneration of Alexander towards the Egyptian gods was crowned with his peculiar and debatable visit to the Oracle of Ammon at Siwa, with its curious details in the ancient sources and modern analysis and interpretations alike. In this context of veneration and adoration of the Egyptian gods, one cannot disregard the meaningful allusion by Alexander when he took part in planning the city, which was destined to bear his name in Egypt, Alexandria. That tactful mindset exemplified itself in marking out himself, Alexander, the main parts of the city, location of the agora, how many sanctuaries there should be, and of which gods. Those of the Greek gods. How many minutes? Okay, right. And the main parts of the city, the location of the agora, how many sanctuaries there should be, and of which gods, those of the Greek gods and the Egyptian Isis, as Professor Mona mentioned. The above testimonies concern the religious aspects of Alexander's policy in Egypt. His respect and appreciation of the old traditions and mode of life of the Egyptians are also attested by some significant evidence. He attempted to attract the Egyptians to himself in the image of an equitable and impartial ruler in their eyes. Among such evidence, anyhow, now let us approach. So I'm limited to time. Now let us approach the pragmatic and the practical policy of the administration of Egypt under the Macedonian rule, a policy which Alexander strongly recommended before his departure to the east to accomplish the final phase of his campaign against King Darius III. The steps and procedures of such practical program represent, I suppose, the yardstick to Alexander's outlook to Egypt as a Macedonian province, apart from titillating the sentiments of the Egyptians by playing on the strings of their religious and national passion. Thus, the leaders of the garrisons of Memphis and Pelusium were Greek generals in Alexander's army. The same applies to the commanders of the remnant troops of Alexander's army and fleet left behind in Egypt to protect it in his absence. They were all Macedonians and Greeks. Chief commanders of the mercenary troops were Greeks as well. The frontier regions of Egypt in the eastern and western deserts of Egypt were assigned to Greek commanders and high administrators. So yes. Time is very limited, in fact, because the topic is, I mean, interesting and needs more. Anyhow. Yes. Thus. Okay. I'm going to reply. Thus, as a matter of fact, what remains to the Egyptians after the distribution of the key posts and crucial functions among the Macedonians and the Greeks was some sort of superficial participation under a Macedonian hegemony and supervision. According to Arian in the same paragraph, the civil administration of the Nile Valley and the Delta was assigned to two Egyptian higher officials, Dolaspes and Petisis by name. The latter declined the office probably because he felt and perceived that the office was rather nominal rather than actual one with veritable functions. This supposedly nominal appointment of an indigenous Egyptian for this civil office seems to have imposed itself on Alexander out of the dire need of an official well aware of how to deal with his fellow Egyptians in all aspects of life, especially the financial one. Cleomenes was instructed to levy the taxes and tributes from the Egyptian rulers, according to Arian. This exceptional nomination of a native Egyptian for that office must have necessarily been temporary until the Greeks and Macedonians gained enough experience to run the major affairs of the country almost independently, relying on the executive functions of minor Egyptian administrative staff like village scribes and comarchs. From the above manifestation, I'm going to the last point, from the above manifestation and its source testimonies, which are very abbreviated here in this presentation anyhow, one could be more inclined to believe that Alexander the Great, in his treatment with the Egyptians on the one hand, and his pragmatic policy and instructions in what concerned the rule of Egypt on the other hand, was more of a shrewd politician rather than a benevolent savior as the Egyptians hoped and imagined. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Mohammed Abdel Ghani. Actually, I did not expect this answer at all. I expected that he was benevolent actor in Egypt. Well, yes, must be. He was a cunning politician, of course, a very cunning one, and very pragmatic in certain stands. But he had a philosophy himself. He was a man with a certain philosophy, and he tends to use the human factor and to penetrate into the culture of the people in order to get along with them in a way. So it could be both.
We can deny that Alexander the Great was an intellectual and of high vision, and he supposed that he was a superhuman. He was not, an ordinary man, but he is descended from gods and so on. So this religious belief of Alexander the Great was mixed with his practical, mindset. So both of them contributed together to his administration and his political program in Egypt.
We usually say that factual and historical events and myth-making are two sides of one of the same coin. Usually it's like that, especially with Alexander the Great. So now I would like to introduce Dr. Calliope Limnaeus Papacosta to speak about her vision about Alexander and the city.
Before I start, I feel obliged to tell you that today I feel blessed and honored to speak in front of you, Greeks and Alexandria and Egyptians, about my hero, Alexander. So, Alexander was named the Great. Indeed, magnificence is established in perfect harmony in his very being. he changed the course of world history, shattered the dogma of nationalities, conceived the very idea of humanity, and brought it to reality. He made his state a society of cosmopolitan citizens, and the fruits of the culture of all the nations he conquered became the shared heritage of all mankind. He was a man in whom intelligence and will were equally powerful and amalgamated in astonishing energy. His thought was already action. He was enthusiastic, passionate, unpretentious, and faced life and death with unreserved passion. The celestial and the earthly were inseparably intertwined in him, and thus he became a legend. It was also an era in which human beings became gods, and the humanism of Hellenism began to intermingle with the faith of the East. And Alexander became a god when he entered Egypt. It was September of 332 BC when Alexander sailed up the Nile to Memphis. He may have taken the necessary time to behold the wondrous edifices of Thebes, Karnak, and Luxor. Without doubt, he gazed upon the pyramids of Giza and the stair of the Sphinx, and then advanced to meet his destiny, Alexandria. His stay in Egypt was a precious period of peace and rest for Alexander and his army. He irreversibly opened this land to the Greeks and fulfilled their age-old desire to exploit the Nile commercially by establishing Greek settlements. Yet he respected, just as the Ptolemies would later do, the religious sentiments and the culture of the Egyptian people. He proceeded along the Mediterranean coast and opposite the island of Pharos identified the site that, more than any other, was suited for the foundation of a free Greco-Egyptian port. He issued instructions to the Nocratis for the construction of a new city, which took his name and, for 2,300 years, has stood as an immortal and imperishable monument to the political prudence and genius of its founder. He himself laid out the city plan and personally traced the line of the future walls, marking it with flower. He determined the principal avenues, the central square, and the temples of the gods. One of these was dedicated to Isis, through which the Egyptian religion of Isis penetrated Greek culture. The city turned its back to the hinterland. It extended towards the sea like a chlamys, lavish in space and monumental in scale. Its architectural rhythm was thoroughly Greek, the Athens of Egypt. Its street grid resembled that of Piraeus. Eleusis existed here, as it did there. Dionysian festivals were held with performances of tragedy in the theaters. Science established its home here. Commerce flourished, and a colorful crowd filled the city. Yet all spoke Greek, even the Jews. The language bestowed unity upon this diverse population. With a fleet of 5,000 ships, Alexandria dominated the Mediterranean Sea, protected the back of Alexander's campaigns, and safeguarded Cyprus and the Greek islands. In the land of the Nile, the most secure peace prevailed. This city became the cornerstone of Alexander's empire, and for centuries thereafter connected Egypt with Europe and Asia. We do not know the full extent of Alexander's expectations. He did not live long after its establishment, but Alexandria for sure surpassed them. Alexandria preserved the spirit of classical Hellenism and transmitted it to later generations. With the museum and the library founded by the Ptolemies, the spirit of Greece not only endured but also performed wonders in Alexandria. His universal idea, the idea of concord among people, was realized in the great city of Alexandria and continues to be realized here. Alexander never saw his city completed. Yet he returned so that his sacred body might be buried here. In truth, however, he never left. Here lies the city he founded, the city he loved, the city where he yet remains, όπου νυν ετικείται, as Pausanias says. Thank you very much.
Yes, so very close connection between the founder and his foundation, between the legend, the person, and the city. It's directly to the point, actually. And in my view, the success of Alexandria under the Ptolemies, again, we have to say, prompted the divine foundation and the divinity of the founder. And this was part of the policy of Ptolemy I Soter, and he managed to spread it over, and it became this legendary founder and city. Thank you, Mrs. Papakos.
The dynasty was a great dynasty.
Yes.
And all these kings were also great.
Yes.
Of course, compared with Alexander, cannot be called great, but especially Ptolemy I and the second were great kings and respected and followed the idea of Alexander.
Yes, and they drew from the greatness of Alexander himself for themselves. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay, now we have Madam or Mrs. or Professor Sofia Averiniu Colonia for the first time in Alexandria, I think.
I will tell you.
Okay, that's great. So a specialist in planning and regional planning, which we need much to listen to her. Please.
I would like to say that I am very happy and very honored to be here with you and to address some thoughts from my part to this honorable audience here today. I must say that I'm deeply moved to be here in Alexandria. Here in this legendary city which narrates the history of centuries and successive civilizations. I left Egypt with my family as a child. But my memories of my native country, my second homeland, remained vivid, and my nostalgia was deep. Anna Mapsuta, Aui Hannah. I have lost the memory of language, unfortunately, but my heart is here, always. So I will speak about Alexander, but few words about Alexander, especially about Alexandria, Iskendereia. Thousands of years of relations connect Greece and Egypt, but Alexander's passage is illustrated by the creation of the new Hellenic city, Alexandria. He did not live to see Alexandria built, but his vision of a magnificent metropolis that would celebrate knowledge and diversity was quickly achieved. In Alexandria, at the crossroads of Africa, Europe and Asia, great civilizations met. Greeks, Egyptians, Romans, Jews, and many others created a universal capital of knowledge which exerted enormous influence on modern philosophy, science, and religion. Allow me to recall the astronomer Aristarchus, the mathematician and geometer Euclid, the geographer and topographer Eratosthenes, and my beloved philosopher and mathematician Hypatia. She is a unique woman. In more recent times, Arabs, Ottomans, and later French and British claimed the city. The Greeks returned and gained an important position in the modern social, economic, and intellectual life of the city. The generosity of Averov, Tositsa, Benakis, and so many other important people was significant, as well as intellectuals, Kavafis, Tsirkas, and many others. I deeply believe that Alexandria's unique, multicultural, cosmopolitan physiognomy remains resilient. I strongly believe it. I have visited, researched, and compared cities around the Mediterranean 30 years. But I felt that Alexandria was always unique and special to me. I hear our poet whispering to me. Καινούριους τόπους δεν θα βρεις. Δεν θα βρεις άλλες θάλασσες. Η πόλη θα σε ακολουθεί. You will not find new places. You will not find other seas. The city will follow you. Today, we found ourselves in the modern library of Alexandria, created in the same place as the destroyed one, to bring together contemporary global cosmos knowledge with that of the time of Alexander the Great. We are at the critical time when science is called to balance the innovation and technology of development with human ideals. Over time, the historical cultural landscape of Alexandria was maintained a balance between human activity and the environment. Today, a multitude of activities have led to developments driven by changes in production methods, technological advances, and economic and political shifts. As a result, modern Alexandria includes elements from different periods, forming a rich and complex set of tangible, intangible, and living heritage. This valuable historical heritage is now vulnerable to evolving modern threats. Major infrastructure projects, the rapid growth of tourism, and above all, climate change with its impact on the city's coastal residential areas and the quality of life of its populations are the most significant threats. In this context, the protection, preservation, and management of Alexandria's historical urban landscape is critical. It is a matter of high priority for sustainable development, the city's historical identity, and the quality of life of its inhabitants. Allow me to share a few thoughts about the future. Taking the preceding into consideration, comprehensive spatial planning of all activities and land uses is required, not only in Egypt, but from all the world, not only Egypt and Greece, but the cosmos, all the global. Another prerequisite is a new form of governance in which local communities play an important role. To ensure the sustainable protection of Alexandria's historical urban landscape as a whole, critical objectives can be achieved, such as supporting innovation and adaptation for the management of industrial production and energy requirements, managing and adapting to the changing priorities of the global tourism industry, strengthening the identity of local communities in a context of peace and cooperation. Thank you.
Yes, a very important talk, half for its nostalgic influence, of course, and the other half is what we really need to talk about much and much, how to make use of the history of the city and points of strength in the culture and in the history in order to promote them and to benefit from them. So I wish Mrs. Marwa and Mr. Awad would allow 5 minutes for discussions. Now it's the floor's time if there is any comment or question or something. Please. Okay. Here we have. Yes, please, madam.
So much. My name is Heba Sharabim. I'm a senator, member of the Egyptian Senate, and professor of English literature at Alexandria University. I'm so honored to attend this amazing panel, which combines history, nostalgia, and all of these things. And my question, which is really concerning me, is, yes, we have this amazing deep root. And it answers your question, how can we really work on sustainability when it comes to fostering the relationship between somehow, not Greece and Alexandria, but culturally wise, I think we need more of cultural, historical exchanges, visits. We need more of our students to know this because we have a lot in common. And unfortunately, not many of the young generations know that. I'm not familiar with the situation in Greece. But I know with our situation and the students, they know a little bit, but not much. And I would love, actually, in a world where we have a lot of hatred and violence and segregation, this is a time through which we prove that we, people of humanities and history, can give a better, place and a better perspective of a world where people still join in peace and have common heritage together. So I guess maybe one of the things that we can come out of this, think of ways that we can create this sustainability that you were talking about, of our, societies, students, universities, institute. I think we need to think about something like that. Thank you.
Of course, you're addressing your comment to Mrs. Sofia Afgarino. Please, Mrs. Sofia, do you have any comment?
I think that I told you some thoughts, some proposals perhaps, but the most important is that Alexandria belongs to the universe. And we have to preserve it and to respect all the traits of his heritage. So we are coming from another country, another situation. It is a question to our friends in Egypt, but we have to be conscious that Alexandria belongs to the universe, and we have the duty to preserve and to respect his tradition, his heritage. Thank you.
Okay, I think we can come out with this panel discussion with 3 main ideas. The first one is the behavior of Alexander the Great during his stay in Alexandria and his reactions about what happened at that time, and that he was both a very, very cunning politician. Okay, shrewd politician, and again, a benevolent leader who wanted to respect the culture and the religion of the country he is staying in, and he is capturing, even if peacefully. The second thing is how Alexandria and the success of the city and the development of all aspects of life in Alexandria are reflected to, or reflect back to, the personality of Alexander the Great as the founder, as the main thinker of the city, and who put the elements, the main elements of the, or the outlines of the city's physical appearance and also its message to the world. So this is the second thing. The third thing, apart from the nostalgic part, actually, is how to promote the city, how to make use of all these things that we all agree about, how to promote these ideas in the time being and to benefit from tourism and from accelerating the cultural message of Alexandria among the cities. So I do thank our honorable speakers very, very much. Actually, it was very informative, each of you, and very touching as well. And I do thank the audience for their presence. Thank you very much. And now we hurry for the very recreating dance.
Before the dance, can I just make a comment?
You have a comment?
If I may.
Yes, please, but quickly. If
a couple, please.
Okay. I'm Greek, so I'm not sure how quick I can be.
You have to be. You have to be. Please.
You know, as men get older in Greece, we become philosophers, so we can speak endlessly. I'm not Egyptian, but I am Alexandrian. This is my first time in Egypt and my first time in Alexandria, but I'm back home. My mother was born in Alexandria. My mother's mother was born in Alexandria. My great-grandfather lived here in the late 1880s or 19th century. So I'm emotionally connected to the city. I thank the opportunity of being here through the great Varlamis, Marcus Varlamis, and I think in some way Alexander the Great showed me the way of coming back home. I've been all over the world, but strangely enough, I've never been to Alexandria. I was never ready. So I thank you for being here, for the opportunity. I just have one comment, if I may, as a Greek. We are very sensitive about culture and about history, and this is the combination, I think, of these two great nations that we can discuss 5 million years ago for both of us, and for both Greece and Egypt, it's like yesterday. This is the great combination of both. The only comment I have is, because I hear Alexander the Great from Macedonia and Greece. Alexander the Great of Macedonia and Greece. That's not correct. There's Athens, there's Sparta, there's Limnos, where the great Antoniadis came from, and there's also Macedonia. All these were states of Greece. Again, I thank you very much.
Thank you. Now, Mrs.
The last comment,
Rafa.
please, if possible.
Mrs.
Yeah, just one question for Dr. Calliope.
Yes.
I'm Dr. Segini. I'm an activist. I'm a skin surgeon, but I'm an activist and a passionate for Alexandria. I've been around and always looking out for your discoveries and excavations. And I understand now that Soter Street is the royal street, right? So most probably Kuta land is the land where the palaces, where the royal palaces were. Is that right? If it is so, then I guess everyone in this room should should campaign for this land to be excavated and not to be used as a hotel or whatever, because we're going to lose the place where the royal palaces were.
According to the law, it will be excavated. Be sure about that. Because the law obliges the owner of the land to finance a rescue excavation. So don't worry, it will be an excavation, and I hope that the findings will be so important that Kuta will stay free, won't be built more. But be sure the law obliges the owner of the land to make excavation. So let's wait till we see the results.
Your questions are very difficult questions to be answered in a definitive way, actually. Where the royal palace and all these things. Thank you. Okay, Mrs. Heba Rafai.
Thank you very much, Professor Mona Al-Haggag and our distinguished panel. Thank you all very much for this wonderful and valuable insight into Alexander, the city, and the legend. Please. I would like to take this opportunity as our panel just gets down. Whoa, one moment. I know everybody's eager to get up. If I could kindly invite Dr. Zayed to the podium, and also Mr. Pavlos Tروكوبولوس, as Dr. Zayed would also like to present you with a token of appreciation for the hard work that you have done. Please. Please. Now the time has almost come to officially inaugurate the fantastic exhibition by the artist Makis Varlamis. And I can confidently say fantastic as I've had a sneak preview. But before we move on to the exhibition hall, allow me once again to extend our sincere thanks to all the partners who supported and contributed to organizing this major event. This collaboration emphasizes the joint international efforts to revive history and knowledge. And I also must take a moment to extend our gratitude and my gratitude to the hard work undertaken by my colleagues at the Biblioteca Alexandrina, of course under the direction of Dr. Ahmed Zaid, to the cultural outreach sector represented by the Arts Collections and Exhibitions Department and the Studio Department, to the academic research sector represented by the Alexandria Center for Hellenistic Studies and the Alexandria and Mediterranean Research Center, to the finance and administration sector represented through the hall section and audiovisual, to the security sector, of course, and of course to the external relations and media sector represented by the public relations and media department. We have one more, thank you. We have one more surprise in store. On our way to the exhibition in the open space just outside this hall, we will delight you with a special traditional Greek dance performance from Fifrgina, the first capital of the Macedonian kingdom, in traditional costume and accompanied by traditional Greek musical instruments. So with this spirit, and we hope that this exhibition will be an inspiring experience and a sincere return to our shared roots. Now I can finally invite you all to the opening of the exhibition, Alexander the Great, Back to Egypt. Thank you.